how do we maintain the Rivian essence, but distill it down into a smaller package, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, over 300 miles of range. We learned a lot from R1, reduce the cost, reduce the complexity to build it, but it is not at the expense that the customer sees. We have this sort of dual personality that we have with our brand between off-road capability and on-road capability. There will be unique colors that are specific for R2.
Guys, we're here in Austin, Texas, and I'm here with a very special guy. This is Jeff Hammoud, and behind us is, in my opinion, the most anticipated SUV of 2026, the Rivian R2. Jeff is the chief designer here at Rivian, and he's going to share with us some thoughts. So thank you so much, Jeff. Welcome to the channel. I really appreciate you taking some time with us to kind of talk design ethos on R2. Now, I've had a chance to kind of do a walk around on it, but I really want to know kind of how this thing came to be and kind of what constitutes the process for coming up with a vehicle like this.
So with R2, it's kind of our second beat. It's our second album, we like to call it. And, you know, when you've got, you know, the second album, we really need to build off of, you know, everything that everyone has come to love and appreciate about our brand, but distill it down into a smaller package and a much lower price point.
Right.
It's something that we're really excited about to get out in 2026. To expand the brand, not only from a price point perspective, but also into other regions as well, like Europe included.
Right. So we are going on for Europe with this, because I've been getting a lot of comments on my videos.
Yes,
guys are like,
hey,
I'm in Germany.
Plan.
Hey, I'm in England, and I want R2, I want R3.
Yeah,
so
that is the plan.
Super exciting. That's awesome. And one thing that I've actually commented on in a lot of my videos, but I've had a few people notice, is the tire and wheel package you guys have on this is not something you normally see on kind of this size electric SUV, you know, sort of the soccer mom mobile. This thing looks like it's built to take on some trails. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's with our brand, you know, we have this sort of dual personality that we have with our brand between off-road capability and on-road capability. So we still want in this segment our vehicle to be very capable. So, you know, in this segment, it's got class leading like ground clearance. The wheels and tires are 32 inches in OD, which gives it that nice stance as well, and really helps with the proportion.
Yeah.
And we will definitely have, like we do with R1, different wheel and tire packages, whether you want something that's more focused for off-road or something that's more on-road to get you that maximum range.
Right. Now, as far as, like you mentioned, different wheel and tire packages, and obviously we're going to have different paint colors. Are we going to have a different palette than we see with kind of the R1 product, or is it going to be sort of kind of an echo of R1? Or
yeah, we will have some colors that will be shared between R1 and R2. They're just certain neutral colors that, you know, will continue on.
Right.
But there will be unique colors that are specific for R2 as well.
Okay. And can you speak to, I understand you guys are building a new plant in Georgia, and that is going to build R2 as well as R3?
Correct.
So right now, you guys are doing we just saw some really cool drone footage that CEO RJ posted, which was super exciting to see, of the big expansion in Illinois. And that's where this vehicle is going to initially be built.
Correct.
And then they'll spin off and do a little bit more in Georgia?
Yep. Now our next vehicle in Georgia would be the R3.
Right. Okay. Are you able to say if R3 or R3X, which one's going to come first? Or is it still a surprise?
Yeah, it's still a surprise.
Still a surprise?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, I tried, guys. I promised I would ask that question, so yeah. I gotta ask. But as far as R2, just kind of getting back to it, as far as kind of like coloring and design, is it going to be sort of a slimmer palette compared to, as far as like less choices, just to streamline? Like, what's kind of the idea as far as process?
Yeah, for this vehicle, knowing that we need to scale much bigger, and because we're like direct to consumer, we need to make the configurations less than we have on R1. So there will be a more limited palette for R2, but we definitely still want to make sure that we're catering to a lot of the customer base that comes to know and love a lot of the colors we have. So we'll be taking the things that we've learned from R1 and applying some of that directly to R2.
Now, one of the things I noticed that you guys do really well is you listen to your customers, even customers that haven't even bought the product yet. And the example I'm thinking of is even the charge port. and moving it to that kind of driver side rear location so that it's a little more symmetrical, utilizing some of the other networks out there, which is super exciting. Are you able to speak to kind of any of the technical aspects as far, or are those still secret right now as well, as far as charging and performance and things like that?
Yeah, we initially communicated some of them with, like, depending on powertrain and battery size, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, over 300 miles of range, which will be, also in these vehicles.
Yeah.
Is definitely, you touched on, like, the things that we learned in the customer. We do listen to our customers a lot in terms of what we do from features. I mean, even on our one today, if you know anything about them, we're constantly doing software improvements.
Totally.
And to make sure that the vehicle you own today is very different than the one you own tomorrow. But even with this vehicle, though, we had to make a lot of conscious decisions that how do we maintain the Rivian essence, but distill it down into a smaller package and get the price point down. So where R1 was a vehicle of designing through addition, really seeing like how an amazing vehicle we do, like R2 is about designing things through subtraction, right? So how can we take away the things that, help us get the price point down, but don't dilute it or make it feel like a cheaper vehicle? Right. And in a lot of ways, we actually added more functionality in it than R1 has, listening to a customer base. Like if you saw the keynote, we have 2 glove boxes, where R1 doesn't even have 1. One of my favorite features is the back glass, the side glass kind of pops out, but then also the rear window drops down. So these are some of the features, and there's many more that I could talk about that we really thought about for our customers to say, like, hey, this is our second car. So in a lot of ways, even though it is a lower price point, we learned a lot from R1, not just in terms of features and functionality, but the engineering team spending a ton of time on how can we save in manufacturing? How can we do things that reduce the cost, reduce the complexity to build it, but it is not at the expense that the customer sees. Like one design-related one, which I think is like, if I explained it, I don't think most people would notice, is if you look at the rear glass on R2 and the rear door, on R1S, and this is typical on a lot of cars, is that in order to get a full glass drop, you often have to put a division bar there. Right,
and just for the viewers, that would be right around here somewhere.
Exactly. Right. So that's another piece of glass. It's another molding that you have to do in there. Yeah. It's harder to manufacture. So with R2, when we were designing this, we set the occupant package and looked at the wheelbase and the placement of the B pillar and the graphic of the C pillar to basically make sure that we could get a full glass drop without the need of a div bar.
So this window will be able to go
all
down?
the way down.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it was literally just us shifting around the proportions and the graphics to make sure we can achieve that. And that's not something that the customer is going to notice, right? You get the full glass drop, which is important for us as an adventure vehicle.
Totally.
And reduce some costs, which is great for the company, but also great for the consumer because then we can offer it at a lower price point.
Absolutely. And it looks cleaner. Like it's just it's a nicer aesthetic.
Yeah.
And as far as the relationship, I'd love for you, if you can, talk to kind of the relationship between the engineering team and the design team. So the guys that are, doing the motors and the ergonomics and the suspension and all that sort of thing, working with, your team that's designing kind of the envelope. Like how does that go down inside Rivian?
It's a really close collaboration. We're all in the same building. A lot of the engineers are in the studio, so we really create that collaboration between the different teams. And very early on, we're really working together to make sure we define the vehicle very clearly. So what you see here is this vehicle here. If you see the production version, because when this is, wasn't fully developed, but the production version looks like this in a lot of ways better.
Really?
Because we had more time to refine it and really make it like sing in terms of a lot of the design work, but especially on the engineering work. And for me, that is something that is really important because one of the things you often see is a company will show this sort of concept or pre-production vehicle, and then it comes into production, and you're like, what happened?
Exactly.
So for us, it's really, we take pride in saying that, hey, the vehicle that we show, it's going to be that and better. And we did the same thing with R1, and we could want to continue to do that with R2.
Amazing. That is fantastic. And guys, those of you that are watching, you may not know this, but Jeff and I have something very close in common, and that is that we are both Canadians that have now, we now work and live in the U.S., so that's pretty cool. Jeff's actually from a town that's, I don't know, how far away, maybe 40 minutes away?
Yeah, 40 minutes
from
away.
where I'm from, so it's pretty crazy that, who knows, maybe we crossed paths when we were kids or something at the grocery store at some point.
Or some bar in Toronto.
Exactly. But I just want to thank you again, man, for coming on the channel and for taking the time and talking about this exciting new vehicle. I get inundated with comments, so no doubt I'll probably reach out to you again in the future for a little bit of to help. But thank you very much.
Absolutely.
There are thousands of people excited for this vehicle, so we're
Thank you
excited
so
to see
much.
when it comes out. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. Guys, we'll see you in the next video.